Broadcasting live from the EBSN online studios in Columbus, Ohio. It's The Rivalry, the tale of two schools, with former NFL scout and son of legendary Michigan head coach, Schembechler, bringing you both sides of the greatest rivalry in all of sports. Here's your host, Shemy Schembechler.
Good evening, everybody. Shemy Schembechler on this end, up here at the beautiful Brown Jug in right downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan, the greatest college town in the United States of America. Welcome to the show this evening, everybody. Finally, we got Michigan and Ohio State on the right track, and we feel like Michigan has a whole season to prepare in order to upset the vaunted Ohio State Buckeyes, who seem to not have any slowdown on offense whatsoever. And I've called this the greatest Ohio State offense ever, or here early in the season. So we're going to see what pans out with all this, particularly as they travel down to TCU to play in foreign territory, which essentially at Jerry's World is going to be a road game for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So we're going to see, they're going to get a little bit of adversity. We're going to see how they handle it. I'm of the opinion that Ohio State's not going to have too many problems as long as they take care of the ball early in the game. So shortly we're going to get the great Don Thomas, the Michigan man straight out of Atlanta, Georgia, to come in and kind of give us his perspective on the Michigan team, as well as how we're going to take care of the SMU Ponies this weekend, which I think this might be the worst team that Michigan plays all year. So we'll get a great chance to play a lot of players and to develop some offensive tackles, which I think are going to be critical. But in the meantime, we're going to have, with our wonderful partners, Ellie's Place right here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a great organization, a great nonprofit organization that really assists grieving children as they go through the loss of a dear one, a family member. And one thing I can tell you, being through adversity myself, having lost my parents at a pretty young age, this organization does some great things for some very needy families here in Ann Arbor and throughout the Midwest, in all honesty. So we're going to have Anita Bone on here pretty soon. And she is in the leadership here at the Ann Arbor branch of Ellie's Place. So we're going to have her on here pretty soon. But for now, we got Don Thomas. Don, are you there, buddy?
I'm right here.
All right. Don, goodness gracious, you look good in that picture, buddy. Maize and blue, all the way.
That's all day, every day, man. Every day is maize and blue day. You know how it is.
All day, every day. Well, I can tell you, Don, it was great that we got healthy finally, not only from a physical standpoint, but an emotional standpoint, considering what we did against Western Michigan last weekend. Kind of give us your thoughts about the game, and why do you think we're on the right track and what we have to do going forward?
Honestly, I'm very encouraged about how we played in this game. I mean, I thought in all three phases of the game, we did what we were supposed to do. An old baseball coach that I had back when I was 13, when I was playing in Detroit, he told me I had a good team. We played against a bad team, and we beat them, but we didn't beat them. We should have beat them by a lot,
right?
But we didn't beat them by that much. And after the game, he told me something that kind of stuck me to this day. He said, "You never play against the team; you play against the game."
Right.
You don't play, and so that stuck with me. And I really believe we played against the game of football.
Right.
I believe we did a great job. I mean, we did a much better job in pass protection. I thought we opened up some running lanes, and we saw what will happen whenever you get Karan Higdon some open field run. It was good to have him get some confidence back and have a great game, because he of course he didn't have a lot of room to run, and he didn't do very well in pass protection against Notre Dame. It was good to finally get him out and loose and finding some places to go. I thought Shea Patterson, I thought he was efficient. I thought he took care of. They did a great job taking care of the football. He made some very pinpoint throws. The defense, stayed in their gaps. They played with great gap discipline. Rashawn Gary was getting triple teamed the whole game, but he did very well. I just thought it was an overall game. I mean, the only, low light is Quentin Nordine misses. I think he missed his only kick of the game. So hopefully, he's mentally in a good place and still has confidence he can kick the football. Those are kind of my preliminary thoughts. What about you?
Right. Well, the one thing I'll tell you is, and if we're going to subscribe to Jim Harbaugh's concept of meritocracy, we're going to take a look at that kicker. Make no mistake, because I know there's a bunch of kickers in that locker room. that are probably chomping in the bit to take advantage of any opportunity that's going to be presented to them. And so for him to miss a field goal, which is an exceptionally makeable field goal, make no mistake. So I'm of the opinion that anytime you get adversity, you look at your depth chart and you figure out who can beat them out on a regular basis and who's got a chance this week. And it's all going to come down to how the practices went this week. And so when you have a team like SMU coming in here, who by no means is a quality football team, they've been bruised and battered consistently over the last 2 weeks, we shouldn't have any problems with them. And so there's nothing wrong with experimentation if you're Jim Harbaugh looking at your special teams, all right? Now, that's just the special teams aspect. The one thing that I think is critically important is when you have a Western Michigan team come in here from the Mid-American Conference, and this is one of the things that was really touched upon in the broadcast last Saturday, is you have a Western Michigan defensive line that averages 270 pounds per player, and then you have the Michigan offensive line, which is well over 315 pounds. And why is it that you should not be able to control the line of scrimmage and move the ball north and south? So with that concept alone, we should have had the production that we did, okay? The fact that we only threw the ball 20 times the entire game really tells the tale of the tape in regards to why we were so efficient on offense, all right? The thing you have to be careful with, Don, is understanding the competition that you have. And I'm not here to say we didn't play a great game, but I'm still looking for better offensive surge up front. We didn't move the line of scrimmage early in the game the way that the way I thought, but we were much better in the third and fourth quarters, particularly when we put the backups in there. And so that's going to lead me to my next concept. All right, because you know me, I'm the talent evaluator. 16 years in the National Football League. I've seen more players than I can shake a stick at. And so when you are comparing Runyon and Bashel Beatty against Jalen Mayfield and James Hudson, the talent gap is there. The only thing that is missing between those two sets of players is experience. And so don't be shocked if we take that offensive line and revamp them with the Jalen Mayfield, who's a true freshman, with the Hudson, who's a redshirt freshman, who actually moved over from the defensive line, and he's now just learning how to play offensive line. So if you're Ed Warner at the University of Michigan, you are probably chomping at the bit to get them as many snaps as possible. And don't be shocked, Don, if they come in here and by the time we get to the Big Ten Conference, which is only a couple weeks away, don't be shocked that those two kids are starting. Okay?
Absolutely. And my thoughts, I thought you summed it up very well. And I was wanting to talk about Mayfield and Hudson. One thing I noticed, James Hudson opened up a crater-sized hole. I'm not sure if it was an off-tackle play or a gut play, but he opened up a crater-sized hole for True Wilson, who also ran well and who also did well in pass protection too. And he's earned himself some playing time with the way he played in that game, in my opinion.
Well, hey Don, that was a classic base blocking play. Okay, that's called coming off the ball and getting on your man and driving that guy downfield, and that's exactly what that play was. So sometimes you're going to get some gap concepts where you're going to trap and come from a different angle off the line of scrimmage, or you're going to run a zone scheme. But if there's one thing I know about Ed Warner, wherever he has coached, whether it's Kansas or Michigan or Notre Dame or Ohio State, they've always come off the ball on occasion when they say, we're going to come after you and come downhill and we're going to utilize a base block. Well, that's exactly what that play was. And so for them to come downhill and to move the line of scrimmage 2.5 yards, oftentimes that's all you need. And so for True Wilson to get those yards on those particular plays, I think he's going to be a fine young back. But that's called a running back's dream, to get a gap like that, to be able to run downhill and nobody in position to tackle him until he's 5 yards downfield. You with me?
Yep. And also when you're 5 yards, I played. I was a varsity state champion defensive end, 3-year starter. But I played one game as a freshman. I mean, as a sophomore, as a running back in high school. So I did play running back, had 100+ yards and a touchdown that game, and it was. I mean, it's a running back's dream, whenever you are past the line of scrimmage and you get to either run someone over, stiff arm someone, or make someone miss. And that's a great point that you bring up whenever a running back gets open like that. And one thing that Dave Warner said in his press conference is he doesn't, I really kind of reading between the lines, he really believes that Mayfield and Hudson are the two best tackles that we have. But one thing he alluded to is he didn't want to bring them along too fast.
Right.
It would have been because of course a part of it is making sure they understand the mental nuances of the game, because you don't want great talented players like that to lose their confidence as early as they are. You don't want that to happen. You want to put them in situations where they can manage themselves, and as they show themselves and they prove themselves like they did last week, the more that you can put on their plate. And I really believe we're going to see a lot of them this week. And if they showcase themselves well this weekend, if Mayfield and Hudson show themselves well, because I know they'll both play. If they do, I really believe game one of Big Ten play against Nebraska, I wouldn't be surprised to see one or both of them out there.
Right. Well, I'm totally with you, buddy. And to be honest with you, not that I'm the brilliant football guy, but the truth of the matter is we've been talking about this since July, okay? Yes. We knew Mayfield was a talented young man, and I think it's ironic that was one of the very first recruits that Warner identified and recruited and brought here to Michigan, because he didn't commit until late. And the fact that he's a Grand Rapids kid, as a matter of fact, if we hadn't gotten Warner from Minnesota to come here, that kid probably would have gone to Minnesota. And I think that speaks to Warner's not only ability to recruit and relate to players, but also to gain their loyalty, to say, hey, this guy's really going to develop me as a player. When we go back to all the players that Warner coached at Ohio State and KU and Notre Dame, and how many of them made it in the National Football League, that is not lost upon these recruits. And I think that's going to be a very key component. And the other thing is, and I want to talk about Hudson a little bit too, because Hudson, like many former great Michigan offensive linemen who started here as defensive linemen, I'm going to name a couple guys for you. Steve Hutchinson, Maurice Williams, David Brandt. These guys were all defensive line players. And so I think there is no reason why we shouldn't doubt James Hudson and his ability to develop in the same fashion in which those guys did. And we know how long a couple of those guys played in the National Football League, right, Don?
Yeah, Steve Hudson he's a future Hall of Famer in my opinion.
He might be the greatest guard ever to play here. Okay, now we don't want to put expectations on Mr. Hudson to the level of a Hutchinson, but you understand where I'm coming from. And this is kind of the philosophy that we had when we were on a recruiting staff with Gary Moore and Lloyd Carr. Is we wanted to find athletic defensive linemen that could convert to offensive line, and I think that's exactly what's happening in this scenario. All right. Now, Don, I was a little bit surprised in some of the offensive skill set of some of the players on Western Michigan's team. They had a good running back, a good wide receiver, and it wouldn't shock me if those guys are afforded opportunities to play on Sundays in the National Football League. So it wouldn't surprise me if those guys did a heck of a lot better offensively going into the Mid-American Conference season. But I think for Michigan's defense to take away the passing attack to the level that we did, particularly in the second quarter on, speaks to the confidence of this Michigan defensive team to be disciplined. And as you alluded to earlier in the show, understanding gap control and how to stop the run, because they didn't run the ball at all on us the entire game. And I think with the aggressive style of Don Brown's type of defense, the way he calls the team speed, I just think this defense is only going to get better and better and more confident. And I think that's going to be critical in terms of when we have to get ready to go on the road to play the likes of Michigan State, to come home and play the likes of Penn State and Wisconsin as we get ready for November. Now, the one thing I'll tell you is nobody is giving Michigan a chance in Columbus, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Me too.
The idea that we dropped Notre Dame early in the season when we did, I just think that's going to be a key component to the emotions of this team overall, offense and defense, because nobody thinks they're going to be able to do anything. And that, to me, is how you get a locker room enthralled and excited. When somebody tells you you can't do something, you're going to go out and do the opposite. Right, Don?
Absolutely. And I really believe that as well. And there are like three guys I really want to highlight on the defense that I thought stood out. Carlo Kemp, his first start of his career. I thought he did a wonderful job getting inside. He got penetration, which allowed there was one play in the second half where he got penetration. He stayed in his rush lane, and once he stayed in his rush lane, he flushed the quarterback right into the arms of Rashawn Gary. And that's what you're supposed to do as a three-technique defensive lineman. That's what you're supposed to do. Stay in your lane.
Don, you know football pretty good. This is kind of impressive.
I played.
I know, but there's a lot of guys that play that have head injuries and they forgot everything. You're not one of them.
Oh no, I didn't forget. And one thing I'll also say is, who also stepped up really well was Josh Ross. One thing is, in the Notre Dame game, Devin Gill kind of found himself going into the wrong hole a couple of times.
Right.
And which led to, and of course that led to Notre Dame's first touchdown run because he got caught up in the mesh. Josh Ross does a great job of scraping downhill and finding and beating the guy in the hole. He did a great job there. And also, of course, we know we have Levert Hill and David Long are two excellent cornerbacks. But
no doubt.
Brandon Watson was excellent in one-on-one coverage against is Dwayne Eskridge. A guy who had 200-plus yards against a
That's the guy's going to be playing on Sundays, okay?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he got nothing down the field. Everything he got was underneath. And Brandon Watson was in his pocket all day. And I thought that was very impressive.
No doubt.
Also, I want to ask you a question, Shemy, if that's okay.
Go ahead. And we got to wrap it up after this. We got to get a nitty on here, okay? Go ahead, Don.
Like I said, I really like Brad Hawkins at that safety position. I really believe.
Right.
I think he does. I just think he's a little bit more fluid than Josh Metellus is. And I think, of course, he's a converted wide receiver. And I think he'd be a better. I know he has that play against Notre Dame, but I think he'd be a better ball.
Yeah, I was going to bring that to your attention because that's stuck in my craw pretty deep now. I'm not going to forget that anytime soon, Don.
Oh, I know.
All right. But I agree with you. I mean, for a guy that's coming into his first year of real playing time after having been a special teams backup, I think once he understands how to rotate in coverage on the back half, he's going to be a fine player. As a secondary player, it's easier to understand your run fits and how to support the run than it is to understand your responsibilities and coverage. So I think that's going to be the area in which we're going to need him to develop. And I have all the confidence in the world that our secondary coaching staff is going to be able to get that out of him. Okay? Does that answer your question?
You answered it perfectly. I knew you would.
All right, good deal. Don, you're the man, brother. Thank you so much for kicking the show off. We love you. Go Blue. And let's take SMU to the woodshed this weekend. Okay, buddy?
I have no doubts. Go Blue. Thanks for having me, Shemy.
All right, all the best, buddy. All right, next up, we want to bring on the legendary Anita Bone. Anita Bone of Ellie's Place. Anita is the community board chair for the Ann Arbor Ellie's Place. Come on in here. Come on in here. Hey, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back. Let's do that, Jake. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back with Anita and we'll talk about Ellie's Place. All right, the Rivalry Classic Football Show. Go Blue. The hell with Ohio State. If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan, you know there is only one place to go to get all the latest and greatest Michigan and blue gear from Nike and Jordan brand. That place is, of course, the M-Den, the official merchandise retailer of Michigan Athletics. Make the M-Den your one-stop shop for all your University of Michigan apparel needs. Visit the M-Den today online at www.mden.com. Go Blue.
This is Doug Worthington, former Ohio State captain, and I'm at The College Traditions, where they have the official Nike apparel that the college players and the coaches wear on the sideline. College Tradition has the flags, they have the decals for the cars, they have everything to show your Buckeye pride. Come down, Buckeye Nation. College Tradition has a range for your feline friends and your canine pups that you can come and get them laced up in some of the best Buckeye gear. Being 6'6", 305 pounds, it is hard to find gear in my size. College Traditions have up to 5X in some of your best Buckeye gear. Come get you a lid, curve up that dome with the best hat selection in Columbus, Ohio. College Tradition, all the great apparel, all the great gear, and things for your man cave. Come down, check us out.
At Power Bar, we know you get what you put in. You get the energy and the excitement, the encouragement and the escape, the friendship and the loyalty. You get everything you need and nothing you don't. That's why Power Bar is back with remixed recipes and all new products to help you power on and savor every moment. Welcome to the new us.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm a private client advisor with one of the leading insurance intermediaries for highly successful individuals. Because of our size, we have powerful partnerships with the industry's premier carriers. I specialize in leveraging these relationships to find my clients the most efficient and effective insurance solutions at the best prices. Don't miss out on this opportunity. A consultation with me is at no cost to you. Whether it be for your business or your personal insurance needs, you earned it, and now let me help you protect it.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. Shemy Schembechler, the Rivalry Classic Football Show. We're going to get Zach Boren here pretty soon, and he can talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes, and nobody seems to understand how to stop them, which is fine because they're going to be in for a tough game this weekend. But for now, we want to welcome Anita Bone of Ellie's Place. So Anita is the community board chair for the Ann Arbor Ellie's Place, which is the best place on earth, right, Anita?
Absolutely.
All right. And so, Anita, we have mutual friends, don't we?
We do have mutual friends.
And when you talk about our history with the legendary Brian Griese, one of the best quarterbacks ever to play here, and the fact that I was here on the recruiting staff at Michigan when we brought young Brian in here, and what most people forget, he was a preferred walk-on.
He was.
To begin, all right? Now
it worked out well for us.
Yeah, it really did. It worked out well for him too.
Yes,
Make no mistake. All right.
Sure did.
That's why we call it the team, right, Anita?
Right.
All right, good. So we are so proud partners of Ellie's Place here in Ann Arbor and throughout the Midwest. And Anita has been in a position of leadership for how many years now?
Like 11
years.
Yes.
So with the idea that those who say will be champions, you
Absolutely.
are exactly what we're talking about here.
I at one point termed out of my term limit and went away for a year, and then they immediately brought me back afterwards.
Right.
So I think I might be a lifer.
Yeah,
We'll see.
And those who return will be champions too.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Very good.
I ran out of eligibility just for a minute there.
Right. Exactly. And so kind of what I talked about early in the show, because I was still in college when I lost Millie Schembechler, who was the first lady of Michigan football back in the day. And if there had been a program like this, I definitely would have been one of the very first in line to take advantage of it. So kind of talk about just Ellie's Place, what its mission is. And then obviously it's a huge fundraising period of time right now. And we want to do whatever we can to help Ellie's Place achieve their goals financially, particularly as we're in the middle of football season. So kind of tell us about.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. So Ellie's is a center that supports the grief and healing process for kids and their families, whoever's left in a situation. What we're learning, thanks to Brian's work in Denver, is the number we've always said is that 1 in 20 kids will have a significant loss before they turn 18. We found out actually that it's much worse than that.
Right.
That actually in the country it's more like 1 in 15, and in Michigan we know that it's like 1 in 12 kids, and that's only if you count their brothers and sisters and their parents.
Right.
Not a friend at school or a grandparent or another loss like that. So we know actually in Michigan that it's like 171,000 kids right now that are going through that kind of a loss.
Right.
If you take it all the way to 25, it's actually 400 and some thousand kids.
Right.
When you count like the college age.
Right.
So we know that they need that kind of support. We also know what happens when they don't get that kind of support.
Right.
Just a lot more likely to have behavioral issues, to have alcohol and drug issues, to have depression, anxiety, those sorts of things. So Brian calls it a public health issue. It's not just like a nice charitable thing to do.
There's no doubt.
Right?
Yep.
So what we do is we have the kids and whatever caregiver they have come to the center once a week. They participate in a potluck all together, a little share a meal part first.
Potluck, that sounds really good to me.
Yes, of course. You got to share a meal first. And then the kids and the adults all go to age specific support groups that are led by trained volunteers that are trained by our staff. The other thing that's really cool is that a lot of kids can't get to the center.
Right.
And so we are now in 19 schools. Kids come either to those school-based programs or to the center from 9 counties. So it's not just Ann Arbor and just for the Ann Arbor Ellies.
Right.
And then we also have Grand Rapids, Flint, and Lansing.
Right.
So we're able to go to kids that can't get to us.
Right. Absolutely.
So.
And in the state of Michigan, obviously with the epidemic, the drug epidemic that we're going through right now, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of those things are hand in hand.
So what we know, we just found this out too. Actually, good new data is that 40% of our families are there because of what we call a traumatic or stigmatized loss.
Right.
So we've got 23% of our current families who have survived a suicide loss.
Right.
We've got another 12.5% from a drug overdose.
Right.
And a 4% from homicide. And that's the Ann Arbor Ellies. That's not the statewide numbers, right? So that's the Ann Arbor Ellies. Those are the kids that are coming to us.
Wow.
We have as many kids right now who are surviving a suicide loss as are surviving a cancer loss.
Right. Wow.
So it's traumatic stuff.
We got to change that.
Right. All deaths are traumatic for kids, but it's in those kind of situations even more complex and more traumatic.
And if that's not an epidemic, I really don't know what is.
Right. And so we've got 141,000 kids in this state that. And we know if they don't get support of some kind, sometimes it's not at a place like Ellie's. It might be from a religious organization or from family or whatever. But if they don't get the support they need, we know there are some serious outcomes.
Right. No doubt about it. And like I said, I mean, if I don't have Bo, because my mom passed away in August of 92. I was still in college then.
Right.
And if I did not decide I was going to come back here home to serve on the Michigan staff and have an office literally across the hall from my dad, you have a young 21-year-old Shemy Schembechler that probably would have had a lot of issues. Now, when you got a Bo Schembechler in your life, that's going to provide a pretty good counseling. But the truth of the matter is, not one single person can take care of all those issues. And there were a lot of things that I had to handle on my own. And to have the type of services and the type of network that Ellie's Place provides, there's a lot of people that probably don't even realize that they have something like this available to them after they've lost a parent or a loved one. It doesn't make any difference, right?
Absolutely. And we know that one of the things that's really hard for kids is that even if they're getting support from adults in their life, it doesn't occur to them that this has ever happened to another kid.
Right.
Like you don't walk around at school in 4th grade knowing that other kids in 4th grade have had a parent die.
Right.
And so the idea of being actually, Ellie's Place is a pretty happy place. It's not particularly sad there.
Right.
And part of it is because the death is kind of the commonality that everybody has.
Right.
Everybody's gone through a loss. So
Right.
you're not weird or strange or unusual there. You're just common.
Right.
And so we know that, So one of the things we're doing right now is we have unfortunately, worst thing that happens to our staff is when someone calls and needs help and we say, we can't help you yet. We have a waiting list.
Right.
Horrible.
You can't have that.
Right. And we have it right now. So we are in a campaign and we actually are building. The campaign is going very well. So
Good. we're here to help build
Good.
it.
We still need more. Believe me, we're only at about 80%. But we are building our own center, which will allow us to have groups 4 nights a week rather than only 3. We will be able to immediately eliminate our waiting list when this place opens next spring or summer.
Awesome.
And the foundation is in. There's a slab on the ground. It's actually happening now. So it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting.
Let me ask you this. I mean, because obviously you're going into the colder months of the year up in Michigan. My expectation is you would probably have more people that would need help, just in terms of mental health and just being of sound mind. Because when it gets colder out, people start thinking less of themselves.
Yes.
And I think that should give us a sense of urgency in regards to the fundraising.
Absolutely.
That we need to get this done right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If a kid comes through and says we can't help them at this time of year, what is it going to be like if they're having to deal with it for another 3 months and we can't help them? So that's why we need a sense of urgency. So we love our man Perry Poricos here.
Yes, we love Perry.
Oh my goodness gracious! When I came up here and met with him, he goes, "You got to meet with Ellie's Place. You got to make them the official nonprofit partner for the Rivalry show." And the fact that we are here, I understand we have a special here tonight, don't we? You know what the special is? Perry, we need the special.
I see Perry out there, but I don't know.
Well,
what
Perry
the
needs to
special
get
is.
in here. We're going to find out what the Brown Jug, because apparently whatever sales they have tonight, a portion's going to go to Ellie's
Beautiful.
place.
Beautiful.
So we'll get that figured out before the end of the show. All right.
Beautiful.
He'll show up back in here
Yes.
at some point.
Yes.
But I would encourage, everybody who's a fan of the Rivalry show, go to elliesplace.org. And so it's ELES place.org. Make whatever donation you can. And I can promise you, this is money that is probably as well spent as any you can imagine. Okay.
Absolutely.
And this is one of the other reasons why I like it. It's a coaching thing. Okay. When you're around good coaches and good people of great influence, you're going to look at life a little bit differently
You're
than
right.
otherwise. All right. And we talk about my father's coaching career and what I'm doing with GS Advisory. To have a resource of somebody that's going to point a brighter direction for you is critically important.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes it's as simple as attitude.
Right.
If you can instill the right attitude in people and to have them look forward to another life, I think that's critically important. As we close, I want to talk to you because you know Greasy almost as
Gracie.
long as I have. All right. So kind of talk to us about how that whole thing started with you and
Yeah.
Ellie's Place and Brian Greasy.
Yeah, so Brian, I know him from when he was here, when he went to Denver. You know, he got that first contract.
Yeah.
It
Third
was
round
like
draft
the
pick. I
rookie-
remember
the
it
rookie-
well.
The rookie contract, but then he got the big contract.
Yeah, he did.
And
because
he-
Shanahan loved him. I know that
And
because
he
I work with
literally-
Shanahan.
He literally got to this moment of,
Right.
what am I going to do with this money?
Right.
And I helped a little bit in that moment of what are the things you care about, and we looked at breast cancer as a possibility because his mom died from breast
Exactly.
cancer when he was 12, and we got onto this idea of children's grief.
Right.
And he did some research in Denver, which is where he was living, and there wasn't really any support there.
Right.
And so I was just involved in helping with the initial research, and
Right.
he and his wife have run this amazing center similar
No
to
doubt.
Ellie's Place called Judy's House.
Right.
And then also run a whole research arm.
And Judy's house is his mother's name.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Yep.
the best thing about this, it's very sweet. His children call it Grandma's house.
Perfect,
Yeah.
as they should.
Yes, and so so when he came out to speak at the very first Ellie's Place event in Ann Arbor when
Right.
we opened 11 years ago, he said, "Go to this thing with me," and I went, and then I just got sucked in. Ironically, at that point, I had a good friend who died when I was in high school, but I've never didn't have a family member.
Right.
And about 5 years ago, my sister died at 48 years old. She had a 9-year-old. And so I feel like I had been like serendipitously prepared
No
for
doubt.
supporting my nephew,
Right,
who lives in
right.
Chicago and is a giant Michigan fan.
God bless
He's
him.
been completely indoctrinated
Yeah.
by me and has good grades. so I'm hoping
Especially
he's
as we
coming to
can
school
tell
here.
that to all the Ohio State fans that are watching
Yes,
this show.
Exactly, yeah. Hopefully, yeah, he's got Michigan grades, so hopefully he'll end up here.
What's
So,
his name?
Lucas.
Lucas, you better be watching the show, buddy.
I'll tell
We're
him.
talking
I'll
about
tell him
you.
to check it out. Yes. So yeah, big Michigan fan, and like I said, luckily my work with Ellie's has allowed me to
That's
know
awesome.
a little bit about how to support
Oh
him.
my goodness.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So next thing you know, we got to move to Chicago then, right?
Well, yeah, that would be great. We're already we're doing Ellie's Place, Michigan now, but we're talking about Ellie's Place in a Midwest spread.
Yeah.
So
Why don't you go to a major market where it's
Yeah.
really needed?
yeah, well, we're in Flint and right now, which
Right.
is where it's really needed.
No doubt.
And
No doubt.
and other places in Michigan and actually in Washtenaw County.
Right.
Right. You
Oh,
heard those
there's no doubt.
statistics, right? Really needed.
There's no doubt about
so,
that.
So we know, and we're really partnering with a lot of other organizations around Michigan, Traverse City, and Detroit,
Right.
and other places,
Right.
where they are doing that work, so we can really try to provide some comprehensive.
That's phenomenal.
Statewide. We're interested in no child in Michigan grieving
Right.
by themselves.
That's phenomenal. Well, hey, it's been a great joy having
Yeah,
you.
nice to
And
have-
we're so
nice to be
excited to support you guys and everything that we do.
Yep.
I'll make a donation here before we leave.
Thank you.
You guys don't mind cash, do you?
No, we take all
Good.
those things.
That's good.
Cash, credit cards,
Flexibility is key.
Yes.
So before we get to the end of the show, we will bring Perry and make him tell us what the special here is at the Brown Jug. We need to get more people here in the building.
Yeah, come to the Jug.
All right, come to the Jug tonight.
It'll be busy later. So
Yes, it will be. And so we'll make people donate money then.
Yes,
All right. It's all about
perfect.
coaching
Get
and
these college students going. I
coaching
love it.
through intimidation to make
Yes.
donations. I'm all in favor of that. How about you?
I like it. I like it. We'll
All
take
right.
it.
All right, everybody. Hey, go to www.elliesplace.org. Make a donation. You cannot donate enough. And I can't imagine a better cause than this one.
Thank
all right?
you very much.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
dear.
it. Go
Really
Blue.
appreciate
Yeah,
it. Go
absolutely.
Blue. Beat SMU. Beat Ohio
Absolutely.
State. And let's take a quick break. We're going to get the legendary Boren on here, who would have been a Michigan man if things had worked out, but that's okay because now we can have a show about it. All right? All right? Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Thanks, Anita.
Yep.
All the best.
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan, you know there is only one place to go to get all the latest and greatest Michigan and blue gear from Nike and Jordan brand. That place is, of course, the M-Den, the official merchandise retailer of Michigan athletics. Make the M-Den your one-stop shop for all your University of Michigan apparel needs. Visit the M-Den today online at www.mden.com. Go Blue.
This is Doug Worthington, former Ohio State captain, and I'm at The College Traditions, where they have the official Nike apparel that the college players and the coaches wear on the sideline. College Tradition has the flags, they have the decals for the cars, they have everything to show your Buckeye pride. Come down, Buckeye Nation. College Tradition has a range for your feline friends and your canine pups that you can come and get them laced up in some of the best Buckeye gear. Being 6'6", 305 pounds, it is hard to find gear in my size. College Traditions have up to 5X in some of your best Buckeye gear. Come get you a lid, curve up that dome with the best hack selection in Columbus, Ohio. College Tradition, all the great apparel, all the great gear, and things for your man cave. Come down, check us out.
At Power Bar, we know you get what you put in. You get the energy and the excitement, the encouragement and the escape, the friendship and the loyalty. You get everything you need and nothing you don't. That's why Power Bar is back with remixed recipes and all new products to help you power on and savor every moment. Welcome to the new us.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm a private client advisor with one of the leading insurance intermediaries for highly successful individuals. Because of our size, we have powerful partnerships with the industry's premier carriers. I specialize in leveraging these relationships to find my clients the most efficient and effective insurance solutions at the best prices. Don't miss out on this opportunity. A consultation with me is at no cost to you. Whether it be for your business or your personal insurance needs, you earned it, and now let me help you protect it.
We're back. The Rivalry Classic Football Show from up here at the Brown Jug in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Zach, we missed you, buddy.
What's going on, man? How are you guys doing up there?
We missed you, man. We're so happy you're here. At some point, we'll try to get you back to Ann Arbor, okay? And I promise you, we will provide all necessary security so you can live up here in peace, okay?
At some point, Shemy, I will come back up there. I haven't been up there in a while. Long time, especially
we're playing, probably, right?
I was about to say especially without any security around me. It's been a long time since I've been to Ann Arbor without some cops helping me out.
As a team, you got security all around you, so it's gonna be a little bit different next time you come up here.
I know. As long as I hang with you, I think I'll be good.
You know what? I think you're right. We'll take good care of you, all right? Because you're no matter what, Zach, you're always gonna be a Bo's boy, all right? Don't ever forget. Okay.
I like it.
So we had Anita Bone. She's outstanding. Ellie's Place. We love Ellie's Place. We're going to talk about that a little bit because I got to get Perry in here to talk about the fundraiser they're having here tonight at the Brown Jug. So, Zach, I mean, another sickening offensive performance by the Buckeyes. What? 33 pass attempts, 30 completions. Did I say that right?
You did. It may be Dwayne Haskins and what he's doing right now, the first two games. There are people down here in Columbus, Ohio, saying he may be the best quarterback ever to come through Ohio State. I mean, the numbers he is putting up, the passing game, the past two games, just from being on the money, from his, dropping back in the pocket, like we talked about it last week, being making his decision right when he gets back on his last step and just releasing the ball. We've never seen that at Ohio State.
such rhythm to the offense. I mean, that's what jumps out at me. I mean, there's so much in rhythm. Guys are getting out of their breaks. Guys are consistently open. The only concern I have is, obviously, you're going into a foreign territory this weekend. You haven't played anybody that plays defense yet, okay? But at the same time, you got to give credit where credit is due, all right? But I'm going to be very curious to see how this team starts off in the first quarter down in Jerry's World, which is essentially a road game for the Buckeyes.
Shemy, no, from an offensive standpoint, we've talked about what they've done the first 2 weeks. I'm really excited to see what they do this week. It's finally an opponent that is a top 15 team in the country, a team that has always been known to have a great offense, a prolific running and passing quarterback, which they do have this year. But everyone is saying how underrated their defense is. And this is the first test that Ohio State is going to have from a defense that can run around, that can somewhat match them with speed, and can play top 15, team in the country defense. So I'm excited to see what they can do. I think you're going to see a lot of Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins early running the football. Which is a little bit different. The first 2 games we've seen, Dwayne Haskins come out throwing it, in the first couple of possessions. But I think you're going to see Ohio State dominate the run to start and then throw off of that, which is what they've done so much in the past.
There's no doubt. And if you're going to run an offensive philosophy into a foreign territory and you're on the road, that's what you want to do. And you want to take advantage of that behemoth offensive line and 2 great NFL backs that are behind there, and see how they can man up within the box area, okay? If there's one thing that you and I know about TCU-type defenses down through the years, they run that sick'em defense where they want to bring extra guys into the box and bring more guys than what the offense can bring. The truth of the matter is, I think Ohio State schematically is exactly what they need when they can run 4 wides, do 1 back, and keep 5 offensive linemen and spread the defense out and just run inside zone. All right. If you can do that, which I believe Ohio State's going to be able to do, it's all a matter of how you clean up the traffic between the gaps and make the right calls at the line of.
Yeah. Well, Shemy, we lost you. You froze for a second, but. I completely agree with you. From what you were saying, this TCU defense that we have seen so much over the years is a little bit on the undersized, kind of personnel. And you say they always bring blitzes, which is true. They always do. That's what they're known for, bringing more guys than the offense can handle. But I think what you're going to see from Ohio State, which is what they do show a lot, is a lot of RPO. A lot of run-pass options with Dwayne Haskins, with with running the ball with Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins. You're going to see a bunch of that RPO type stuff, which you're going to see more just because TCU does like blitzing so much. They're a little bit undersized, especially at the linebacker position that I mentioned earlier, and. That's probably going to be their game plan. Is they're probably try and bring pressure. Dwayne Haskins has not had pressure very much at all within the first 2 games with the offensive line, and so that's exactly what you're going to try and see.
I couldn't agree more. So the thing I'm curious about is, and you've looked at TCU in the 2 previous games. I mean, they've been relatively prolific so far this season. Would you concur with that? And to me, this will be as much of a refreshing game for the Ohio State defense as it will for the offense, because it'll give them something that they haven't faced yet before, correct?
No, I do agree with you. And watching SMU, they have been very good their first 2 weeks, but the first half against SMU last week was not very good. It was a tight game in the first half. Come second half, TCU started walking away with it. But I think what you saw last week with TCU is they can be careless. They can be careless with the football on offense. They can be susceptible to the big play on defense. And you saw SMU do that, a couple times in the first half, which made it a close game. It's going to be a huge test for Ohio State, offensively, defensively, and even special teams. TCU TCU and Gary Patterson has been so good on special teams over the years. You know, they've had a bunch of huge plays from punt returns, kickoff returns, and big games on special teams. And so they're going to threaten Ohio State on all three phases of the game. But at the end of the day, I think it's something where Ohio State is just too big up front. You know, you and I know this. Game is won on the offense-defensive line. I think Ohio State is way too big and way too physical for this to even be a game. I hate to say it, and I hate to put pressure on, especially being a player. I used to hate when people say, oh, they're going to come out and blow them out and whatnot. But I honestly do believe that. You know, I honestly believe that they're going to come out and be able to run the football to start on offense and be able to stop them with their front seven on defense and put pressure on Sean Robinson, the quarterback. And once that happens, TCU is going to start to have to take chances, right? And as soon as they take chances, that's when the big play happens. And we all know Ohio State has the athletes to make the big play.
Exactly. And I think from an emotional standpoint, and I know my dad used to talk about this all the time, Zach, is that when you're going to a foreign territory, it's key to have great emotional composure in what you're doing, offensively and defensively and special teams. Do not do anything that's going to put your team at jeopardy in terms of penalties, turnovers, anything like that. And if you have that attitude and you have that workmanlike demeanor about you going into the game, this is how you can isolate a home crowd advantage where, I mean, you know it's a road game. You know it's going to be loud in Jerry's world. The TCU fans are going to be fired up by having one of the top teams in the country in town. And I just think it's you against the world. And when we talk about all the off-season turmoil with Coach Meyer and everything that's happened, this actually is a good thing for Ohio State at this juncture because they've seen all these emotional distractions and how to handle that. And to me, that's going to give you the ability to look through all the adversity, to look past all the things that could go wrong, that might go wrong, and just focus on your game. All right. If you can do that, I can see Ohio State running away with this thing in the second half.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great thing, and we know this. Your dad knows this. All great teams have to be tested at some point, right? And the earlier you're tested, the better you are as a team. The faster you can grow. And we all know in college football nowadays, it's better to experience kind of a fight, you know, a struggle early on in the season than it is later in the year. We've seen it from the college football rankings. We've seen it in the playoff rankings. So for Ohio State to go out and get a contest against a top 15 opponent on the road within the first 3 weeks of the season is just huge for them emotionally, especially after everything that happened. You mentioned that. And if they can go out and get a win, which I think both you and I believe they can, it's even bigger for this team.
Yep. Just don't pull a Michigan in week one, okay?
Oh, boy. But it's like I said, what I just said. You know, yes, Michigan did not show up week one, and we've already talked about that on previous shows.
I know.
But at the same time, for there to be a time for that to happen, it was week one, right? It's week 1 through 3, maybe 4, right? That's when, if you're ever going to have a flaw, you want it to happen then, because we all know college football playoffs and the committee and everyone else, the teams that get stronger late in the season are the ones who always find themselves in the playoff.
Right. And that's what I'm praying for with the Michigan Wolverines.
We'll see. At least they play. Hey, Shemy, we'll get on it, but at least they put up a better show against Western Michigan. We were sitting outside College Traditions last week, not knowing if it was going to be a tight game or not.
There's no doubt about it, but it's a good to get a gut check like that, you know, and to understand against a team that is certainly overmatched in Western Michigan. For Michigan to be able to come out and run the football as effectively as they did, they averaged almost 8 yards per carry with the two backs. They were able to move the line of scrimmage, particularly in the second half. And I talked about with Don Thomas. I'm like, they have a lot of decisions they have yet to make in handling their tackle depth chart. I mean, this Jalen Mayfield and this James Hudson, I mean, these guys have the ability to become really good offensive tackles. When you break down that fourth quarter against Western Michigan, they were moving guys off the ball that I know that our starters couldn't do the same thing. And Western Michigan kept their starters in for the majority of the game, if not the whole game.
Yeah, so, no, I completely agree with you. The great thing about that is Michigan is playing an SMU team this week that you hope is the same way, right? You would hope that
I think they're
Michigan
worse
would
than
be able to
Western
dominate the line of scrimmage from the beginning and be able to get those guys more reps like they did last week. And heck, if they put out the same performance like you said, Michigan was Michigan football last week. The way they ran the football against Western Michigan, that's what they are. That's really who they are under Coach Harbaugh, and that's what sets up the pass, which makes them a really dangerous offense, which we haven't seen in a couple of years. And so if those young guys can get some more reps against this SMU football team, it makes that offense even more dangerous. And you hate to say that as a Michigan fan like you are, Shemy, as a coach or whatnot, but the Michigan football team or the Michigan offense right now is really it's up in the air based on their tackles, right? If they can't block up front, they're not going to be good. They're not going to have a good season. If they can find guys to play both tackle positions and be really good pass protectors and really good run blockers, that offense can be really good.
Right. Well, see, this is where I get nervous because I get like my dad, Zach, okay, in that we think about Ohio State every single day, all right? Bo and Woody thought about Ohio State and Michigan every single day. I know Urban Meyer and Jim do the same thing. Yeah. And so I keep thinking about, how are we going to block the defensive ends at Ohio State in terms of how we're playing right now? And you give cause for a heart attack, right, Boren?
Yes.
I mean, I get nervous. I understand what we're coming down to Columbus for in November. Yep. And I hope and pray, I'm fairly confident that Ed Warren or Harbaugh know, is that you better have a package of plays ready for that last game in November. But for now, I feel I feel heartened as much about our schedule here in getting ready to play the likes of Michigan State and Wisconsin, Michigan State on the road, Wisconsin at home, because our deficiency right now is about gaining enough confidence where we can line up and play and just be confident in ourselves. Okay. Yep. I think we can get to that point through the next two games. And when when we go up to Michigan State, and Michigan State, obviously, they're going through some adversity right now in terms of how they dropped a game against Arizona State when they literally peed down their leg in that game. So,
here's the great thing about Michigan's schedule coming up is that their bigger games, Nebraska coming up, Wisconsin. Right. Wisconsin's kind of here or there, but Michigan State, Penn State so far this season, we've seen them not having great defenses, right? Michigan State lost to Arizona State because Arizona State was able to dominate the line of scrimmage on offense and be able to run the football against Michigan State late in that game. And so you saw that. You saw Nebraska. They've got a really good offense, but their defense could not keep Colorado out of the end zone, which is not a very good offense. So when you look at the upcoming matchups that Michigan has, it suits well for them because Michigan has a great defense and those teams have really good offense. But the defensive side of the ball is not what they're going to get against a Ohio State. Even Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a solid team. We know that. But really we've seen so far this year that they rely on their offense and Jonathan Taylor to run the football 30, 40 times a game and just take up clock that way. They do not want to go against a team that has a really good offense and has a defense that is able to stop them.
I agree 1,000%. All right. Hey, I want to take a quick break. We have one of my all-time favorite Michigan players here, and he's over here shaking his head, and I really don't care if he's disappointed. The great Jamie Morris, and boy, do we have some great stories about Jamie Morris coming out of Ayer High School in Massachusetts when he came on the same recruiting weekend with another famous Buckeye by the name of Spielman, who we lost, and I don't think we have any regrets about that. And we're going to have Jamie on here after the break. And Jamie is the host of the M Zone on WTKA here in Ann Arbor. Sorry, Ann Arbor.
Columbus, Shemy.
I'm always saying Columbus. I've lived there for too long.
Not
we want to get
Columbus.
Jamie on here because he's going to have some opinions on Michigan football, and he might even have some opinions about Ohio State football. So we want to get that from him on the other side of this break. So until then, the Rivalry Classic Football Show. Go Blue.
Go Bucks, Shemy.
If If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan, you know there is only one place to go to get all the latest and greatest Michigan and blue gear from Nike and Jordan brand. That place is, of course, the M-Den, the official merchandise retailer of Michigan Athletics. Make the M-Den your one-stop shop for all your University of Michigan apparel needs. Visit the M-Den today online at www.mden.com. Go Blue.
This is Doug Worthington, former Ohio State captain, and I'm at The College Traditions, where they have the official Nike apparel that the college players and the coaches wear on the sideline. College Tradition has the flags, they have the decals for the cars, they have everything to show your Buckeye pride. Come down, Buckeye Nation. College Tradition has a range for your feline friends and your canine pups that you can come and get them laced up in some of the best Buckeye gear. Being 6'6", 305 pounds, it is hard to find gear in my size. College Traditions have up to 5X in some of your best Buckeye gear. Come get you a lid, curve up that dome with the best hack selection in Columbus, Ohio. College Tradition, all the great apparel, all the great gear, and things for your man cave. Come down, check us out.
At Power Bar, we know you get what you put in. You get the energy and the excitement, the encouragement and the escape, the friendship and the loyalty. You get everything you need and nothing you don't. That's why Power Bar is back with remixed recipes and all new products to help you power on and savor every moment. Welcome to the new us.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm a private client advisor with one of the leading insurance intermediaries for highly successful individuals. Because of our size, we have powerful partnerships with the industry's premier carriers. I specialize in leveraging these relationships to find my clients the most efficient and effective insurance solutions at the best prices. Don't miss out on this opportunity. A consultation with me is at no cost to you. Whether it be for your business or your personal insurance needs, you earned it, and now let me help you protect it.
Okay, we're back. The Rivalry Classic Football Show. Schembechler and Boren coming at you, getting ready for week 3 of the great college football season. We are joined by one of my all-time favorite Wolverines. And Jamie laughs at me like I'm not serious, and I'm dead serious. So this is the great Jamie Morris, all right? And Jamie Morris, for a long period of time, was the all-time leading rusher in Michigan history. Where are you in the rankings now, Jamie?
Now?
Yeah.
They put Shoelace, the quarterback, in the rushing with the running backs. I moved down to 4th.
Oh!
I can't believe it.
Well, we're only gonna rank the running backs then, because Denard's not gonna count in that rankings. So you gotta understand. So my dad's recruiting at Michigan, and we started to develop a national program where we could go to all corners of the country, and so we start to get some really good players like Greg McMurtry and Jamie Morris. And one of the things I remember, because Bo always told that story about your recruiting trip, and it was the same weekend as when we had Spielman in town, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that weekend?
Oh, yeah, like it's yesterday.
Well, come on. Let's hear the story. I think this is really important. Oh, say hi to Zach, by the way.
Hey, Zach, what's going on?
What's going on, Mr. Morris? How you doing?
Wow, Mr.
I'll bet you
Hey.
Zach Boren grew up a huge fan of Jamie
Hey,
Morris.
you want to know something?
Big fan of Zach's dad.
Hey,
Exactly.
Shemy, it's funny. Whenever we used to come up to Michigan, we would always see Jamie. Always. When I was a little kid, we'd always see Jamie. When Justin was getting recruited, when I was getting recruited, we'd always see Jamie. Always say hi to him. And I'm going to enjoy this story because guess who hosted Spielman on his official? My dad.
Exactly.
My dad hosted Chris Spielman when he visited Michigan this same recruiting weekend.
I'm just going to sit back here and shut up while you guys tell the greatest story of all time.
So it was probably the coldest day in Michigan history. It was like minus 13,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And we had 24 guys come in for that recruiting visit.
Big recruiting
It
weekend.
was huge.
Right.
And we had played In basketball, yes, I know. He thought he was taller. That's why he raised his head up. So it was the basketball weekend. It was against Indiana.
Right.
Michigan, Indiana.
Bobby Knight.
Bobby Knight gets ejected from the game.
That's right.
Remember that? And
yes,
then
I do.
At Bill Frieder's press conference, Michigan wins.
Yeah.
And at Bill Frieder's press conference, Bobby Knight pops in. And he's yelling and yelling and screaming and yelling. And I'll never forget that because, you know, I'm a 17-year-old kid watching Bobby Knight do his thing. Yes. But that being said, security grabs Bobby because Bobby's going at Frieder. Because Bobby's accusing him of having the referees throw him out the game.
Right.
Oh my God. So
that doesn't shock me actually.
Right. So they usher Bobby out, get Bobby out. I look at Bo Schembechler, Coach Schembechler, and Bo goes, "What a great coach." And I'm just like, "Yeah, man, yeah." So we go out to dinner. We went to the Wiffle Tree. You remember the old Wiffle Tree?
Oh yeah.
Goodness. Great restaurant, not around anymore. It burnt down.
Right.
But that being said, you know, we all went to the Wiffle Tree. It's a steakhouse, and you get to pick out your own steak and different things like that.
Yep.
Great visit. Bo's running around from table to table, having a great time and everything. But the real crowning moment is everybody gets their one moment with Bo.
Right.
You know, they get that meeting with Bo, and
right.
he tells you what he thinks and what he's seen on film.
Yep.
Of course, I'm behind Chris Spielman. So I'm like the Wheaties boy. And, you know, I'm okay. That's fine. I'm good. And, you know, we're all waiting around, sitting around. I don't know what happened. But Bo came out, and they canceled all the meetings after Spielman. I'm like, wait, I'm up. And Bob Thornblade was my recruiting coach.
Right.
And he's like, James, I'm sorry. He said he'll see you in the morning. I'm like, what? And he goes, James, just go out, have a good time with the other players. Bob Perryman was the player that was
the
recruiting
old fullback.
Yes. And because he's from Massachusetts.
Right.
So that being said, I went out, did some things, and I had some fun with everybody. But I'm still thinking, I didn't get a chance to meet Bo. I didn't get a chance to sell myself.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Because, you know, I wasn't too big in my day.
Right.
You know, I'm what? At
right.
the time, I probably was 5'5", 132 pounds
right.
at the time. So
yeah.
I got to tell Bo how good I am.
Right.
So, but he does show up at the Campus Inn at the time at 6:45 that morning.
Yes, he does.
And he calls and says, Marsh, Schembechler, come on down. Dude, you want to talk about him. Oh my God. You want to talk about somebody who got dressed quick, boom, boom, came downstairs, sitting down. I don't know what he said.
Right.
But I know I was happy.
That's awesome.
And he said, what did he say to me? He said, son, if I offered you a scholarship right now, would you take it? And I looked at him, and I had to be honest with him. I'm like, I'd have to go home and talk to my mom.
Right.
And he goes, what? He goes, I thought you were a Michigan man. I thought you would take. I'm like, Coach, I promised my mother I would always talk to her before I make that decision. He said, I can honor that. Yep. I can see that.
Absolutely.
So he was good with that. So
yep.
It was a great time, though. I had a great time. I got to see Bobby Knight. I got to see Bobby Knight almost fight. I got to hear about the Chris Spielman telling Bo he was going to Ohio State.
Right.
And Chris Spielman had the T-shirt on and the
ripped up jeans. Yes.
Oh my goodness. I had the shirt, the button-down shirt. I was ready to meet, boy.
Right.
But Spielman went in there. It was crazy.
It's so ironic that the senior Boren was the host on his visit. and not that we're going to blame Mike, okay, Zach? We're not blaming him because we understand there were alternative motives involved with Spielman going to Ohio State, and it all rested with the old man, Spielman's old man, correct?
It did. The story behind it, my dad has said multiple times. Chris told him he wanted to go to Michigan. It was his old man who said, there's no way you are going to Ohio State and you don't have a choice.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
hey, I hate to say it kind of comes full circle because the same thing happened with my older brother and my old man, right? Kind of happened. Hey, you don't have a choice. You're going to Michigan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, I think the way Spielman's old man phrased it, he goes, you go to Michigan, you don't bother coming home ever again.
Yeah.
It's all over.
Yep.
So when you're 17 years old, I mean, how do you handle that type of criticism if you make a certain decision? Like, how do you fight through that?
Man, I don't know. Justin, Justin had to fight it too. But I tell you what, Bo Schembechler is the one who sold Justin. Not only was the old man hounding him, you have Bo hounding you. You don't have a choice.
Well, it's so funny because in my days in the NFL, when you're showing up at Ohio State for all the draft days and the workout days and all that stuff, we always see Chris there. And here we are in the bowels of the Woody Hayes Center, okay? And Spielman was never shy to tell me, if not for my dad, I would have played for Bo. And he says that at an Ohio State Pro Day.
Yep.
Can you imagine that?
All the time. All the time. It's unbelievable. He has stories about but that was back in the day when as a coach you could have recruits over to your house for dinner. Right. And so my dad even tells a story about when he was getting recruited, he's going over to Harbaugh's house. Going over for spaghetti, and he goes, "There's some young kids running around the house." Well, it's John and Jim.
Yep.
So he tells that story, and it's super funny. But yeah, Spielman, my dad had no chance at convincing old man Spielman. Chris wanted to come, but old man Spielman wanted nothing to do with it.
Shut it down. He shut it down. So I want to continue with Jamie here because Jamie, you were probably exactly right when you were describing your own dimensions as a high school senior coming in here on a recruiting visit. And so Bo used to say, if we got a scholarship left over, I just loved Jamie Morris as a kid, but I don't know of any other position he can play outside of return man. And so you come here as a return man, and the next thing you know, due to depth chart and injuries and stuff like that, you got to play as a true freshman.
Yeah.
Well, kind of talk to us. How in the world does that happen under a Bo Schembechler coach team? He never had a running back this small, start so early.
No, I got an opportunity to play because of injuries and different things like that. Yep. I going through fall camp. I had a pretty good fall camp. It wasn't bad. And, I remember it was the Wisconsin game. I think it was the third game of the season. And they told me I was going to play.
Right.
Didn't tell me I was going to start until that Saturday.
Right.
But when they told me I was going to play, I'm like, cool, I get to play.
Right.
I figured a few plays every now and then, but they told me, when we took the field,
right,
go out there.
Right.
You're on first team. I was nervous, but just remember your plays.
Especially when Terrell Burton's telling you.
Exactly.
Oh,
my God.
Terrell Burton, the great old running back coach at Michigan for many years.
Yes,
one of our favorite people of all time, by the way.
So got a chance to play.
Yeah.
We're playing Wisconsin and, had a pretty good game.
Right.
All I did was hide behind those big offensive linemen and pop out when I had the opportunity.
Well, I can promise you the old philosophy works. You can't hit what you can't see.
Exactly.
And so, we had explain to me our offensive line. We had Jumbo Elliott.
Yeah, Jumbo.
And John Vitale. Who are the other guys? Hussar.
Mark Hammerstein.
Right.
And Clay Miller.
Yeah. And so you have all these giants that are all 300 pounds across the line. And this is back in the days when very few offensive lines were that big.
Exactly.
And so, Jamie, running off tackle or running inside, you didn't know until you were 3 yards downfield that you had the ball.
Yes.
So
and that's the good part about it.
Yeah.
That's how you stay alive.
Exactly.
When you're that small.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the great things about Jamie, and so here's the NFL guy coming out. Low center of gravity, not just because of his height, okay? Jamie knew how to lower the pads and run through blocks at tackles at times.
Yeah.
Because by the time you got to be a veteran here, you were 200 pounds by then, weren't you?
Yep, got the 200 pounds.
You were yoked up.
Gittleson.
And so, and we're going to have Gittleson on one of these shows here down the road. And, boy, we're going to be able to take up the whole show with Gittleson stories. There's no doubt about that.
Neck.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Neck. It's that's the strong muscle.
Well, it's so funny because when I told Bo I was going to play high school football, the first thing he says, "Oh, you have to go see Mike."
Yeah.
and so we spend all of our lives with Mike doing either leg press or manual neck.
Oh yeah.
You manual neck every single day, right? Yeah.
And neck is the most important thing to Mike Gittleson.
No doubt.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say this. He made our neck so strong. It kept us – we had very limited neck injuries, back injuries, concussions.
Exactly.
Different things like that.
And we all know Gittleson was quite the visionary even back then.
He was before his time.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get Gittleson on here down the road.
That'll be awesome.
It'll be phenomenal, no doubt about that. So Jamie becomes the all-time leading rusher in Michigan history by the time he's a senior. All right, and one of the things that I've always loved is your family history. Obviously, you're the brother of one of the great New York Giants of all time, the great Joe Morris. Your other brother was a great track athlete at Syracuse.
My brother Mike, yeah.
Just talk to us about what it was like growing up in that type of family. And
My goodness.
And your dad was a sergeant major.
Yes.
Sergeant major.
In the Army.
In the Army.
Yes.
And so when you're living under that type of discipline, it's easy to find out that you could achieve whatever goals you put your mind to.
Without a doubt. I mean, you when I was the misfortunate one to be born last of 6.
Right.
So that being
right.
said, I had
6.
two older sisters and 3 older brothers.
Right.
And so you follow what they're doing.
Right.
If you do what they're doing, you're okay.
Right.
Step out of line, you get fixed. You get fixed
in a hurry.
Right way. In a hurry.
And this is why you always want to talk to mom before making an important decision.
Exactly. So
yeah.
My dad was the type of guy, you made your bed, you lay in it. You get it done.
Exactly.
You know, if you choose Michigan,
Right.
you're going to go there.
Exactly.
And you talk about coming home or anything, getting homesick, that didn't happen.
Right. That's not an option.
Exactly. So
yeah.
I made the decision. I decided to
Right.
go, but you
Right.
always follow. I always followed my brothers wherever they went.
Right.
And high school, a lot of pressure, coming behind them because
Right.
they did so well.
Right.
And fortunate for me, they all 3 went to Syracuse.
Right.
Which was kind of cool.
Exactly.
So I figured, where am I going?
Right.
I'm going to Syracuse, right?
Right.
No. I want to go to Michigan.
Right. Absolutely. Well, in many ways, I mean, and you can give more clarity to this for me, is Bo became a father to a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of feel like it's a real brotherhood for all of us, even though I couldn't play dead. but it's amazing how you get through years and you get to older in life about who your family is and the people that you trust. And I love the fact that you're still here, Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
And we talk about those who say will be champions. I think you're one of the best examples out there.
Well, I appreciate that.
All right. Now, so Jamie hosts a show. It's called the M Zone on WTKA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're on the air from 3 to 6. So the fact that you came over here, you hustled over here after that show.
No, it's great. Hey,
It's
I know
great.
my boy
It's
great. Shemy was on.
It's phenomenal. And so, obviously, you follow this Michigan team and you follow them through 2 weeks of football. What do you think of the state of the union right now?
I think this team is progressing. I think it's doing well. I think there was a lot of hype behind this team. I think there was a lot of high expectations for this team. The thing about it is this fan base, it's a starving fan base, and it's waiting to explode.
Precisely.
The loss to Notre Dame was probably the best thing that happened for them.
I agree.
I think and Coach Bo said this, you learn more about your team from the first game to the second game than any other time during the season.
Precisely.
So that being said, I think this team learned a lot.
Right.
The coaches have the film. They've got this team under their wraps. They know what to do with this team, and they're doing a great job.
Right.
I think a lot of people were expecting, you have this great defense and it'll do this.
Right.
It's a different year, though.
Right.
It's not the same team as last year.
Right.
Even though it's two players left from that defense,
Right.
you still have to establish this defense.
Exactly. No doubt.
With that being said, this team is heading in the right direction.
I agree.
They're going to progress each way down that road.
Right.
But I tell the Michigan fans, keep those high expectations because they expect them.
Exactly.
So
no doubt.
Keep them. The players expect those.
And I think it's very interesting when you're talking about expectations because based on the arrival of Shea Patterson, all right, people went ballistic.
Oh, my goodness.
5-star quarterback transfer from Ole Miss. Hallelujah. He's ruled eligible by the NCAA. And when fans look at the Michigan-Ohio State game from last year, they always say, if only we had a quarterback.
Yeah.
It might have been a different outcome. You cannot evaluate it that way, all right? Especially when you got a guy who's only been on campus for 4 months and still learning the offense. Mind you, he's a veteran, but it's never an easy transition. And to be honest with you, I've been pleased with Shea Patterson for the first 2 weeks of the season.
As have I.
Like
I was impressed with him
Yeah.
at the Notre Dame game.
Yeah, because I think he's handled his responsibilities with really good poise, and understand our issues with the offensive line and protection, all the issues we had in the Notre Dame game. He acquitted himself very well.
Yes.
I mean, he completed a high percentage of his passes, and the idea that he was under an onslaught in terms of a pass rush and yet got only sacked twice.
Yeah.
That says a lot about him and his ability to buy time and escape and make plays on the run.
Well, he's an athlete.
He is an athlete.
He is an athlete. And they said he was an athlete coming in.
Exactly.
Very athletic, and he can move around in the backfield, and he can throw on the run.
Yep.
Which he saved a lot of plays.
Yes, he did.
By moving around in that pocket and making throws.
Yes, he did. And so I'm of the opinion, if he is given lateral options to escape the pocket, and not even necessarily the pocket, because if we run slide protection where we run with a big wall, you're giving him more options to improvise.
Right.
And I think the more options you give to improvise, the better he's going to be for your team.
Without a doubt. Right.
Now, the key is, and I've been talking at nauseum because I'm the talent evaluator and I evaluate offensive linemen, is we have not gotten the depth chart at offensive line where it needs to be yet, okay? And I'm of the opinion, and I love Runyon. I love that he's on the team. I think he should be a guard, okay?
I agree.
But we need to be able to have depth on the offensive tackle spot while these young players develop. And so I'm very intrigued to watch Hudson and Mayfield, who we talked about earlier in the show. I think that they are in the form of potentially a John Jansen or a Jeff Backus or guys like that. The guy I like to compare Hudson to in many ways, he reminds me of Maurice Williams.
Yeah, he does.
In many ways. His athleticism, his length, and the fact that all these guys, and the fact that Hudson came here as a defensive lineman, is really a key indicator because that's what Maurice Williams was too.
Exactly. No,
so,
you hit all the points.
Yeah.
I think the progression of these young guys as they get better and better, and I think Coach Ed Warner talked about it yesterday, is that these players are getting better and better. The more and more they get an opportunity to play. Like this week we have SMU. These guys may get an opportunity to play a little bit more, and as long as they're playing game speed, they have this opportunity. They get better.
No doubt. Do you think either of them start?
I think they can get into the starting lineup. I think they're pressing these veterans. I think Bushel Beatty. I think John Runyon Jr. They feel them coming.
Yes, they do.
They feel they coming.
Yes, they do.
And Jalen Mayfield, I mean, you hit it right on the head. He's a kid who's competing for the starting job. He rotates with them. They get 25% of the plays right now with the first team. So each one of them. James Hudson has finally accepted. I'm not a defensive player anymore.
Exactly.
I'm playing offense.
That's an excellent point.
So
hey,
I
Jamie,
think they're doing well.
Jamie, you talk about expectations. You touched on that earlier. And Michigan fans should have expectations, as should past players, as should former coaches, everyone involved with the program and fans of the program. My question to you is, are there must-win games this year for the University of Michigan with these expectations? Like, is Penn State, is Michigan State, or is Ohio State? Are those must-win games for that program?
I think the must-win games are the games that, your rivals, your arch rivals. Michigan State is a must-win game for us. We need to go to East Lansing and win that game. I think our goal is to go down to Columbus and compete and win that game. Somehow, some way, they need to figure it out and win that game. I mean, we've knocked on the door a couple times. Now it's time to kick that in.
Yeah. Do you sense frustration by fans, by people around, or is it one of those things that, hey, Coach Harbaugh's still building this program. There's still a lot of pieces that, when he took over the program, there were a lot of pieces on the ground. He's still trying to put them together. Or, you guys already talked about 5-star quarterback coming in. First time ever that Michigan fans are saying, hey, we have a really good quarterback here, 5-star quarterback. The recruiting hasn't been great recently. We finally have a guy that can play and make plays. Does that kind of, do the expectations get even higher from that?
I think there's more pressure that they expect him to go down there and do his thing. They expect that maybe that equals things out, that they need to go down there. And yes, this is the 2016 class. This class they're in their junior year now. This is the time that this is Jim Harbaugh's first class, and they're expecting things from this class. The guys that are now mature, and they went through a rough time last year, 8-5. It feels like a 6-6 kind of a year for us that we went through. Right. Now you have to go down and perform. Right. And yes, is there a job at hand that if he doesn't win? No, I'm not saying that. But there is pressure to win against your arch rivals. There is pressure to get to Indianapolis this year because that's what they expect.
Right.
And the idea
we haven't been there yet since the inauguration of the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. So
I agree.
Yeah, time is of the essence.
I agree. We talked about it a little bit, Shemy. I mean, I know, Jamie, you're still really involved with the program, and you always have been ever since you got done playing. So that was kind of my thing is, you don't want to go there. You don't want to talk about it, but is there a job at hand if those expectations aren't met? Because like as we talked, you're getting into your recruiting classes are becoming juniors. The guys are coming through the program that Coach Harbaugh offered scholarships to. The guys that are really playing, the core of the team, are guys that Jim Harbaugh said, hey, I want you to be a part of the Michigan family.
No, you're right. And right now, I think there's heat on the seat. I don't think it's hot. I think the fans expect. I think the fan expectation is higher than let's say, the university's expectation. They want good young men playing hard football, playing fair football, but they want to win too. They want to get to Indianapolis. Right. Everybody wants to get to Indianapolis. Right. As Shemy said, we haven't been there. And we talk about our tradition. We need to commit to the tradition that we have at Michigan, the foundation that was built.
Right.
Right. Here's an off the record, not off the record, but off the wall, not Ohio State, Michigan question. Not off the record, but off the wall. Do you think from having a great understanding of the Big Ten East, and you're up there, Michigan State, Michigan, we're down here in Columbus with Ohio State, obviously, our guys over east with Penn State. Do you ever feel like the Big Ten should split that up and maybe put Michigan State and Michigan in the West? Just from a Big Ten conference standpoint, you look around, the Big Ten East is so strong, and we talk about Michigan not getting to the Big Ten championship game. Well, hey, I mean, it's hard to get there. Really, I mean, since it's happened, it's really been, Michigan State, Penn State, and Ohio State. But it's a hard conference to play in the Big Ten East. And you look over in the West, it's really only Wisconsin.
Well, I'm going to go back to my old coach, Bo. I want to be in the East. I want to, if it's hard, then let's get there. Because if you win the Big Ten East, you pretty much know you're going to win the Big Ten and go to the next level. And I think, we just need to compete. I think Jim's gone out. Coach Harbaugh's gone out and got the players necessary to win the Big Ten East. We just got to, get the focus and play hard football.
Right. I think one of the key components, and we've talked about this in the past already, is the key additions of Jim McElwain and Ed Warner to the offensive coaching staff.
Big.
And how much of a difference that makes in terms of developing players, but also identifying players that are going to become successful here at Michigan. Not just from a football standpoint, but understanding the culture at Michigan, how to handle the academics. And it's never an easy solution when you're trying to get those questions answered. And I think Ed Warner has been around long enough, particularly because we talk about the offensive line an awful lot, is do we have guys in here that we can develop into all Big Ten performers? All right.
Right.
And that's what Bo talked about for many years, and that's what Mo talked about. And so during all those decades of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, we were successful at bringing in those types of players.
And I think we'll be successful now with Ed Warner. Ed Warner is a great recruiter. He goes and gets kids. He knows how to talk to offensive linemen.
Yes, he does.
He's got a lineage. He comes from Ohio.
Right.
He comes right from there. I like the idea.
He came from KU.
Well, yeah.
And they had chicken salad when he was coaching there.
That is true. That is true.
Jamie, it's Ohio State.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Ohio. I did say Ohio, but I will say Ohio State.
There you
Zach.
go.
You are right.
You know, I don't call you guys a team up north. I say Michigan. Yeah, you know.
Oh, you're right. And
Right.
I don't mean to be mean about Ohio State.
Hey, Jamie. Now we made it clear before you were here. You know, Zach is a Bose boy.
Oh, I know
He's
is.
a Bose boy
I
through and through.
I love Zach. I love the Boren family.
Yeah.
He knows that.
I love them all.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wait a minute. He's got the M in his heart. He just got to find it sometimes.
And we decided we wanted to bring back. Can you imagine a better guy to have on the Rivalry show than Zach Boren?
Oh my goodness,
Huh?
yeah. He's probably
Shemy, we talked about it. If I ever come up to Ann Arbor, I need security.
We'll take care of you. But the idea that
I need to go around with Jamie.
So
you're fine. Don't you worry about it. You're
exactly.
fine.
And so the whole idea is we're going to be so nice to Zach for the remainder of the season so we can soften him up.
Oh, yeah.
So that by the time we get down there in November, we're ready to take care of business.
Well, I know, Zach, I can't wear my Block M's and my stuff. I'm going to have to wear a little black, but it'll have a Block M embossed in it. So I know I won't get things thrown at me that much, but I know I got your back, and you got my back.
Oh, I do. You come hang with me down in Columbus, man. I'll show you a good time.
We'll take care. Take good care of Morris.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No,
but back to Ed Warner real quick. I played for him at Ohio State. Great offensive line coach. He can recruit with the best of them. Some of the guys that he brought in were first-round draft picks, are playing in the NFL right now. What he can do, especially with a young offensive line, guys that respect him as a coach and know what he can build, that he's going to take the Michigan offensive line, the Michigan offense, especially the running game, to the top. I mean, that's what he did here at Ohio State. From an offensive standpoint, Shemy and I talked about this last week. I think the biggest fault that Michigan has is essentially the head coach puts a ceiling on him. You know, as a head coach, you have so much to oversee during a game, and especially being the head coach of Michigan, being the head coach of Ohio State, you have to let your coaches have some sort of authority during the game that lets the offense be successful. They're able to put all their attention into the offense game plan, into adjustments while the game is going on. And I think almost Coach Harbaugh caps the offense sometimes with play calling and whatnot and having too much control of them.
Well, and you may be right. I kind of agree with you, Zach, but I know that Coach Harbaugh has loosened the strands just a little bit. He's got great coaches around him. He may not be the smartest man in the room anymore. He may detour to those guys and say, "What do you think?" He's got some great offensive minds in that locker room now.
Right,
great offensive minds.
Jim McElwain he's got the rings to prove it.
Yes, he does.
Ed Warner, he's got the ring to prove it. Right. So you got guys in there that have been to the pedestal. So
I think, Jamie, you hit on a really important point because Bo used to say this down through the years. You're only as good as your assistant.
Exactly.
Okay. And Bo made a point that whenever he interviewed an offensive coach, and I'm sure that Urban and Woody did the same thing and Jim does the same thing, is that assistant coach is going to know more about coaching that position than he does.
Exactly.
And so when you have a bunch of people, and that's a great sign of leadership. When you have that type of leadership and you're comfortable bringing guys in that may know more than you about a particular position, how to coach a position, that's how you build championship programs. And I think finally we're in that situation right now. But you have to allow that coaching staff to gel, let it stay together.
Right.
So that, just like what Bo and Woody did. I mean, nobody ever left the coaching staff at Michigan unless they became a head coach.
Exactly.
And so whether it's Gary Moore or Bill McCartney or Don Nalen, all these guys went off and became successful head coaches. But not until then. They always had to stay because no job was better than a head coaching job.
Right. And being at Michigan, being at Ohio State, you wanted to stay there because you knew what kind of people you had around you and different things like that. And Zach, you hit it right on the head. You got to be able to let your offensive coaches they make the calls. Yep. They know their athletes better than the head coach. Let the head coach manage the game and let your coaches do their thing.
Right.
Yep. Well, we know this in college, right? I'm sure Coach Harbaugh's the same way. Coach Meyer is at Ohio State. During practice, the head coach is walking around. It's not offense and defense are on the same field. You've got offense and defense on multiple fields. You've got multiple things going on. The head coach is walking around doing everything. The guys who know the offense inside and out, know the personnel inside out, are the assistant coaches who spend all the time with those guys. You don't have the quarterbacks coach leaving the quarterbacks. You don't have Ed Warner leaving the O-line during practice, but you have Jim Harbaugh, you have Urban Meyer, you have these other head coaches walking around monitoring everything at practice and jumping in here and there. And it's almost like when you have the head coaches that try and have so much say over an offense or a defense, that's when there becomes a ceiling. And I think you saw it a couple years ago with Coach Meyer, right? You saw it when he became so reliant on J.T. Barrett with quarterback runs, and it was something that Coach Meyer believed in, that when you see him hand off the offense, when you see him say, hey, Coach, go ahead, I will throw in some opinions here and there, but when you let the assistant coaches that you hire, that you pay to do their job, it's almost like you stay out of the way and you're able to help them grow instead of capping their growth.
Right, exactly.
No, I agree.
All right, I want to transition. We're going to let Jamie go here. He's a busy guy. He's got his own freaking show and everything. But I want to go back to my childhood because my childhood was really special, okay? And so I remember, you're going to love this, Zach. Anytime we went to a bowl game or took a trip or anywhere, I always managed to find Jamie Morris and Gerald White wherever they were, okay? Because I wanted to hang out with them. Now, there were a lot of players I didn't like, okay? Right. But Jamie and Gerald were one of our favorite guys. And kind of, I mean, do you still talk to Gerald?
Oh, yeah. Gerald and I keep in touch with each other.
It's awesome because these guys were really tight, all right? And they knew how to manage a young, snot-nosed teenager and have fun with him, all right? And that speaks to great maturity of the great Jamie Morris.
Well, if you say so.
Huh? I do say so. And so, and I love this. When you're a part of Michigan and Ohio State, in the 4 or 5 years that you're here, you develop these unbelievable friendships, brotherhoods, and in many ways, you guys support each other in your own endeavors.
Sure.
So kind of talk to us about that before you go.
Well, anytime, like I'm real good, Vince Workman. Love Vince Workman. Good friend of mine. He's a great guy.
I didn't know that.
Catch up with him.
Love Vince Workman.
Sometimes we'll bring Vince on, and he'll give me the rivalry report.
Really?
And break it down for me what's going on in Columbus. So
we're going to get Workman on the show then.
He's great. And great guy. But we respect one another.
Right.
We respect. We know I know what Earl put him through.
Yeah.
He knows what Bo put me through.
Exactly.
So we understand one another from that standpoint.
Right.
We understand how important this rivalry was.
Right.
And we were, we took pride in being a part of it.
No doubt.
But now that it's over and now we can watch from afar,
right,
we still enjoy it.
That's awesome. That's phenomenal. Vince Workman, what a great story. Jamie Morris.
Hey,
appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
God bless you.
Zach,
Jamie,
I love you, man. Be good. You come to Ann Arbor, let me know, man.
Thanks, man. I will. You got to take me to Cottage Inn, man. I haven't been there forever. That's my one thing about not being able. I have not been allowed to go back to Ann Arbor, and that's the one thing I'm missing, man. Cottage Inn pizza.
We got to get them as a sponsor. Cottage Inn's in Polaris. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
They're there.
Shemy, let's be honest, though. It may be in Columbus. It's not the same as the one in Ann Arbor. I promise you that.
Right.
It is. No. He's right. The clam chowder is off the chain.
Oh, my God.
No doubt.
The best.
All right. Well, hey, we're going to be right back. We're going to have the GS Advisory High School Player of the Week, the great Trevor Brzezinski of Berea Mid-Park on the show. And then we're going to wrap it up, and we're going to preview the TCU game and the SMU game for Michigan and Ohio State. All right. We'll be right back. The Rivalry Classic Football Show. Go Blue. If you're a Michigan Wolverine fan, you know there is only one place to go to get all the latest and greatest Michigan and Blue gear from Nike and Jordan brand. That place is, of course, the M-Den, the official merchandise retailer of Michigan Athletics. Make the M-Den your one-stop shop for all your University of Michigan apparel needs. Visit the M-Den today online at www.mden.com. Go Blue.
This is Doug Worthington, former Ohio State captain, and I'm at The College Traditions, where they have the official Nike apparel that the college players and the coaches wear on the sideline. College Tradition has the flags, they have the decals for the cars, they have everything to show your Buckeye pride. Come down, Buckeye Nation. College Tradition has a range for your feline friends and your canine pups that you can come and get them laced up in some of the best Buckeye gear. Being 6'6", 305 pounds, it is hard to find gear in my size. College Traditions have up to 5X in some of your best Buckeye gear. Come get you a lid, curve up that dome with the best hat selection in Columbus, Ohio. College Traditions, all the great apparel, all the great gear, and things for your man cave. Come down, check us out.
At Power Bar, we know you get what you put in. You get the energy and the excitement, the encouragement and the escape, the friendship and the loyalty. You get everything you need and nothing you don't. That's why Power Bar is back with remixed recipes and all new products to help you power on and savor every moment. Welcome to the new us.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm a private client advisor with one of the leading insurance intermediaries for highly successful individuals. Because of our size, we have powerful partnerships with the industry's premier carriers. I specialize in leveraging these relationships to find my clients the most efficient and effective insurance solutions at the best prices. Don't miss out on this opportunity. A consultation with me is at no cost to you. Whether it be for your business or your personal insurance needs, you earned it, and now let me help you protect it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. The Rivalry Classic Football Show from up here at the Brown Jug in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We got the great Boren down there in Columbus at the EBSN studios. We're going to get here shortly our GES Advisory Player of the Week. Oh, boy, we got Trevor Bazinski right now. Trevor, are you there, buddy?
Yes, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, Trevor Bazinski. Now, unbelievable high school quarterback at Berea Mid-Park outside of Cleveland. They're in the shadows of the Cleveland Browns organization. How does it feel to play football that close to a pro football team, Trevor?
I think it's really great because over the off season, there's a couple days that they come over to our facility because of rules of their own of not being able to do so many hours at their facility, and they do a couple sessions at our practice facility, and it's really cool to see how they really conduct themselves when no coaches are around and they're just trying to get better themselves. So it's certainly something to look forward to and look up to.
That's phenomenal. Well, Trevor, unbelievable quarterback. He's been very highly recruited so far in this recruiting class, and he's already committed to Rice University. So congratulations to you, Trevor, on becoming a Rice Owl. Talk about, obviously, you had a great game last week. We're going to talk about that, too, and a great victory over Lakewood. And we're going to list these stats off, Boren. This is going to blow you away. All right?
Unreal. I've already seen them, Shemy.
They beat Lakewood 55-21. Trevor completed 63% of his passes, 187 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions, but he only played in the first half.
That's a game.
Right. Berea Mid-Park runs their record at 2-1. They're going to get ready to play North Ridgeville. I think they should beat North Ridgeville. I've seen them on film already. Trevor, talk about the recruiting process for you, because obviously it requires great maturity when you get offered by a school that's a couple thousand miles away. And not that I'm surprised about any of this, but just talk about the idea of getting so many offers here early on, and then to have a great academic institution like is Rice offer you a scholarship, and you soon thereafter commit to them. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. So the whole recruiting process nowadays, as my dad has said, has changed tremendously since he was in high school. Because when he was in high school, you didn't know who had offers and who offered who. But nowadays with social media, it's all over the place. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't say hard, but you know what everybody else has, so you kind of push yourself a little bit harder until the first one comes, and that was last spring with Bowling Green, and then they started coming in after that. We held like pro day type sessions where I went through a script of throws. I think it was about 60 or 70 throws. we held 8 sessions, and they were about like an hour and a half long. So whoever wanted to come in and watch me do what I do was able to, and then we worked around that. It was cool because Rice was a school that my dad sent stuff to, and they were interested because I'm the type of quarterback they want to recruit, like a pro-style quarterback.
Yeah.
So their offense coordinator reached out and asked if he could come up on a day that we didn't have one scheduled because that's when he could. So we set that up, and he came out, liked what he saw, and then invited me to a camp in April. So we went down to Houston for that camp. Got the chance to throw in front of Coach Bloomgreen, head coach, and he liked what he saw too, and they offered me on the spot. It was 2 weeks later that I realized that I wanted to become a Rice Owl because of the great program that Bloomgreen is starting to build there, and just a great atmosphere. Location of Houston is great for what I look forward to do in college, and it's just the perfect opportunity for me.
Yep. Well, it's really impressive that you would go so far away from home because obviously you got a brother playing offensive line at Cincinnati. You probably went into this thinking that you were going to go to school closer to home. It's always interesting when people show interest in you and how you can change your perspective about what's really possible in recruiting based on the interest other people have in you. Is that certainly the case with you?
It did. It didn't really sink in until North Dakota State started showing interest about how far out I could possibly go.
Right.
And then at that point, I just told all the coaches it didn't matter how far away the college was as long as I had the opportunity to play at the next level.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's impressive. So, we found a picture of you, Trevor, on an unofficial visit to Michigan State. I hope you don't mind we put that picture up there with the Michigan visor on. So we don't want people to misunderstand that you're an official Rice Owl. Yeah. You're officially committed. The recruiting process is basically over. But I couldn't help but put the Michigan picture in there because this is the rivalry show, right, Trevor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, Shemy. Of course, you're going to put that in there, Trevor. Right. So tell us, you guys are 2-1 on the year. Obviously, blown out Lakewood last week. Tell us a little bit about your team this year and what you kind of see in the future. Obviously, you guys have a playoff run in mind, but tell us a little bit about your high school program this year.
It's pretty cool. This year, this is our 3rd year under our new head coach. Coach Hunick. So the starters this year have been playing with them all 3 years since I've started my sophomore year. So we're all kind of in the know of what he wants, and we're all on the same page of what we want between us. So I think that brings a great level to the offense because we're all synced together, and we know what needs to be done, and we know what other people are thinking at the same time. If stuff changes on defense, that we could have the ability to talk off the field and just sync up that next series.
Yeah. No, Shemy, high school football, man, it brings back the days.
Oh, my goodness.
I remember.
To me, there's nothing better than high school football, all right? Trevor, obviously you got a big game tomorrow night against North Ridgeville. Have you scouted them out, and tell me what your thoughts are without giving away your game plan?
Without giving away the game plan, I said it'll be an interesting game because there's 2 really good programs going to go at each other, and there's some stuff in the defense that we feel that we could take advantage of. But the way we run our offense, if they decide to stop whatever we do to start the game, we could easily switch it up and attack what they're not giving up after they make their decision what to do.
Right.
I like it. Well, one last question before we let Trevor go, Shemy.
Yep.
Trevor, when you were down at Rice, did they take you to Torchy's Tacos?
No, they did not.
Oh, let me tell you. Best place to go. Shemy, you know I was in Houston, played for the Houston Texans for a year.
I remember that well.
Trevor, I am telling you, it's the best place.
Fullback.
It's actually in Rice Village, so it's right there, right near Rice University. Torchy's Tacos, check it out.
Wow.
Okay,
you talked about
sure.
an independent recommendation. If you don't go there, Trevor, it's your own fault now.
I just had to do it, right? We're not even sponsored by Torchy's Tacos, but it was that good.
Well, outstanding. Well, Trevor, we appreciate you coming on. We want to wish you the best of luck tomorrow night. And once again, a very well-deserved, even though it was one half of football, but goodness gracious, if you double that up, you get 364 yards, 6 touchdowns. Now we understand the type of talent that the great Trevor Basinski has and how fortunate the Rice Owls are going to be next fall. Trevor, best of luck to you, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Well, he's another well-deserved young man. He's in our system, gesadvisory.com. Go ahead and check us out, www.gesadvisory.com, the most comprehensive scouting and recruiting program in the nation. We just expanded 28 states now, Boren. We're in Pennsylvania, Chicago, Colorado, you name it. We're all over the place.
I love it. I'll tell you what, Rice, that's big time.
It's big time, buddy.
That's it. That's an offense that puts up some points back there. They're getting a quarterback from Columbus or from the great state of Ohio. Shemy, that guy can sling it around a little bit.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Okay, let's get back to TCU, my friend. You tell us how the Buckeyes are going to take care of the Horned Frogs this weekend.
Oh, man, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think they have to be able to dominate up front. You know, this is a Big 12 defense, but it's not an Oklahoma. They are not, recruiting the big uglies from across the country like Oklahoma does. This is a front seven on defense that's a little bit undersized, that I think is very susceptible to the run, and even the big play. We know TCU is going to bring a lot of pressure to Ohio State to try and get to Dwayne Haskins, to try and stop the running game. I know they believe in their speed on the outside at the corner position and in the back end, so it's going to be a lot of man coverage. So from that standpoint, I think Ohio State's offense is going to come out. They're going to dominate with the run earlier, at least try to, and then they're going to go deep. We've seen Dwayne Haskins in the first 2 games this year be able to throw the ball down the field and really stretch the field. And these wide receivers for Ohio State are not slow wide receivers. These are guys that can run with the best of them, have breakaway speed. So I think that's a huge thing to look for from an offensive side. Obviously, from the defensive side, this defense hasn't really been tested. They gave up the big play in week 1, but it was after the game was completely out of hand. But, seeing tough Borland in the middle this past week, more than 10 plays, having Jordan Fuller in the back end playing center field, the Ohio State defense looked completely different. This is a defense that we know can run sideline to sideline. It may be the best defense that maybe has ever come through Ohio State. I mean, the team from top to bottom, from a talent standpoint, is so deep. But honestly, there is one X factor whenever you go in a big game. It's a quarterback that can run and throw the football. You have that at TCU, and I think that is the only thing that, from a defensive standpoint, they have to be really worried about, because you have a quarterback who can run the football in Sean Robinson and throw the ball the way he does. The big play can happen. So they have to be sound on the defensive front. They have to continue to get a lot of pressure with the front four, because with the running quarterback, you have to play some kind of spy system with a guy who can run on playing in the inside linebacker position. So look out for that. Look out for them maybe doing some games with the front four, which we haven't seen much in the first 2 games, but it all starts up front. It really does. Running the football and getting pressure on Sean Robinson, making him get out of the pocket and make some bad decisions down the field.
No doubt. And there's a couple things, and you hit on some really important points there, Zach, but I think one of the things, the addition of Tough Borland brings such great continuity to the run-stopping part of the Ohio State defense. Because when I scouted his older brother, who came out of Wisconsin, got drafted by the 49ers, it was amazing the type of defense you became when you have a Borland-type Mike linebacker that can actually set your front, is very instinctive, has great range, and takes very good angles. Takes very good angles to the perimeter. And those are the types of things that, in many ways, you can't coach that, Zach. You either have the ability and the instincts to understand how to manage your space and how to run to the sideline. And I think people really underestimate the speed of Tough Boren. He's a lot faster than people think he is. And he makes way too many plays to the numbers. And that's what we talk about when being a productive linebacker in the NFL. I think that's critically important. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, I think this is a very key component, because one of the things that Haskin has proven through the first 2 weeks of the season is the idea that he can go into a three-step drop or shotgun, and basically the second he gets the ball, he can cock his arm and get ready to throw the football. He gets the ball out very quickly, all right? So the idea that I think they'll be able to threaten the field vertically against TCU, do not be afraid to run slants and digs in the middle of the field, particularly when they run blitz packages coming off the wide side of the field, because that, to me, is where Ohio State is very dangerous, because when you hit any of those receivers, and you know their personnel a lot better than I do, is run after the catch in space. And if Haskins can get rid of the ball before they come with the rush, you have the ability to get a big play out of a short pass. You with me?
I completely agree with you, Shemy. The slants and even maybe some bubbles on the outside when when they know the TCU defense is going to bring pressure up the middle or even pressure off the edges. When you get some of those wide receivers in space, like a Paris Campbell, like a Terry McLaurin, like even an Austin Mack and some of those guys, they can run with the football in their hands. I think, I touched on this earlier in the show. You may see some RPO put into the game plan. We know Ohio State doesn't run much of it, but when you go up against a defense that you know is going to have to pressure you in order to stop the run, that RPO will open things up right behind the linebackers. You're going to see that with the slant pass. You're going to see that, even maybe with the fake zone to bubble screen. Just plays to get the ball in playmakers' hands, and they can take it to the house in any position and anywhere on the field.
No doubt about that. So what do you think? I see Ohio State winning by 3 touchdowns, personally. I think they'll take control of this game in the third quarter.
I do. You obviously have a little bias. Just, it's kind of the same way when we talked about Michigan Notre Dame. It's a big game on the road. You never know what you're going to get, right? Momentum is such a key thing in big games.
Exactly.
Honestly, deep down in my heart, I think it's going to be somewhat of a blowout. I think you're looking, 50-something to 17 to 21. I think 30, 35-point win. I just think the TCU team does not match up well with Ohio State, because Ohio State has the same kind of athletes that TCU does, but TCU does not have the size that Ohio State does. It's not not that TCU is not a good team. It's just I don't think they're a good matchup against Ohio State.
Right. So you're saying that the 12-point spread is completely misguided. That's what you're saying.
No, I know. If I was a betting man, which I know you're not, and I'm not either, Shemy, but I would for sure take Ohio State.
I would too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So that is going to be an 8 o'clock kickoff Eastern time at Jerry's World. That's ABC, isn't it?
It is. ABC. And then at 3:30, the 3:30 game, I believe on ABC as well, is SMU and Michigan.
Right. And so that's on FS1.
Oh, it's on FS1.
It took me some time to figure out where that channel was so I could record it.
But weren't they on FS1 last week?
Huh? Yes. It was the same thing. I was down in Texas. I had to call my wife and tell her to find FS1 so we could record the Michigan-Western Michigan game. It took her a little time. He goes, oh, yes, we do have that channel.
FS1 2 weeks in a row?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. For some reason, I thought they were the 3:30 ABC game.
Well, no. So this is FS1 at 3:30 on Saturday.
Yeah.
So when SMU, I think, when you look at SMU's just statistically on their team, national rankings, they're 185th in passing yards. They're 261st in rushing yards and 243 yards per game. All right. So I think the Michigan defense is going to be licking their chops in many ways. Their quarterback, Ben Hicks, only completes 48% of his passes. He's got 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. they've attempted 62 passes, but yet at the same time, oh my goodness, I gotta look up these stats. They have 3 times as many passes as they do rushes.
Oh,
their leading rusher only has 19 touches in 2 games.
Oh.
Okay, they only have one guy that's averaging over 5 yards per carry. That's Braden Wesh, but he only got 19 carries in the first 2 games. So they have proven that they are not willing to establish the running attack out of their spread concept. All right, so it's kind of funny because I actually, one of my players from last year, who's going to be a quarterback there at SMU, I'm pretty certain, SMU or Houston, said that if I come there, I'm going to be afforded early opportunity to play. Well, now we understand why, okay? And so defensively, they're kind of on the opposite ends, all right? Let's see, Braden West, 19 rushes for 108 yards, 5.5 per carry. He's only got 2 touchdowns. They've only accounted for 2 rushing touchdowns the entire season so far, all right? Receiving, they only have 2 touchdowns receiving. And I think they're going to struggle, all right? This, to me, is a very similar game to Western Michigan. Why they're putting it at 3:30, I have no idea. Television makes decisions that I don't quite understand. But you look at their defense, and I think if you asked anybody up here in Ann Arbor to name anybody on the SMU team, they probably couldn't name a single solitary one outside of Schembechler Hall. And I think it's going to be a rout, quite frankly. I can see Michigan winning by 30 points.
Yeah, I would probably say more than that. You know, the only thing I think Michigan has to be scared of is a little bit is when TCU played them this past week.
Yeah.
TCU's offense was a little susceptible to the turnover. I think SMU's defense is a little underrated from that standpoint.
Right.
I remember watching that game. I didn't study the film on it. I remember watching the game. TCU having a little bit of trouble, but it's one of those things where, hey, you're playing at home. Take care of business. SMU is coming down. It's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour plane ride down from Texas. So, you know, take care of business early. Run the football. Take care of the football. And yeah, I mean, I think. Just go to the run. They'll dominate. I think from a defensive standpoint, SMU will not even be able to touch it. They may not get over 100 yards all game, Shemy.
I agree. If we keep SMU under 200 yards, we'll be fine, okay? I just think we're becoming a much more disciplined defensive team. We're not giving up big plays, not anything close to what we did in South Bend. And I think this defense is coming into their own. When we had Don Thomas early in the show, we talked about the emergence of Hawkins, the safety, and coming into his second game as a regular player now, when he's been a special teams player his whole career. He showed a lot of things in coverage in this past game that we haven't seen out of a safety in a long time at Michigan. So mind the Hawkins kid. And the other thing is, I'm looking up SMU. They didn't create a lot of turnovers. They had 1 interception and one fumble recovery.
Well, it was early on in the game. They put up a 9 spot early, Shemy.
I know, but I mean, it's not like they're a turnover juggernaut, Boren. Goodness gracious.
No, you know, hey, listen.
You probably watched 2 quarters of the game. You saw both the turnovers.
Listen. In a game against TCU, they hung. It was close. They were ahead in the first quarter because of turnovers.
Right.
But, yeah, I'm not saying they're good by any means. TCU ended up winning the game, 42-9, I believe, something like that. So I'm not saying they're a juggernaut team by any means. I'm just saying, hey, Michigan, take care of the football and put it on them early because SMU has nothing on offense.
Exactly. Yep. I think we're on the same page, Zach. I just want to get things a little fired up with you.
Hey, Shemy, this is Jake. Can I jump in here real quick? I've got a very important question. And if you guys watch your monitor, does Mike Tomlin look like the TCU Horned Frog?
Yes.
Pretty close.
I mean, this is after looking at it for
Not
5
bad,
seconds.
Huh? There it is. That's the question of the day, I think, there.
I didn't know a head football coach and a horned frog could look like a deer in headlights.
But they do, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, even the great sakes of Franco can add something to this discussion. Isn't that fascinating?
Crazy.
Got to keep it interesting, Shemy.
All right. Well, hey, that's going to wrap up the show tonight. Boren and Schembechler will be back next week after the 2 scrimmages this weekend. I think this TCU team is going to be much advised. They're going to get ready to get crushed this weekend. No matter the crowd, the foreign territory, it's going to make no difference. But we'll be back next week. Thank you, Dr. Boren. Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Shemy.
The Rivalry Classic Football Show. Go Blue.